coming off of a great overtime win in Minneapolis. Really proud of my team's effort and execution, both at the end of regulation and then in overtime, making sure that we sealed the deal. A lot of contributions, and I think it showed some of the resiliency, and we put together 4 quarters, and a 5-minute overtime. And I think one of the things that we're most proud of as a staff is that despite some of the close games that we've had or some of the struggles that we've had throughout the season, that we are still committed to trying to compete in every game and win every game. And for us to go in and sweep Minnesota this season, I look at that as definitely a win for the program.
Coach, Brooke had one of her better offensive games on Saturday, but in general, she's not a player where her impact is always in scoring. Just can you speak to her impact this year, and where do you think she's really made the greatest, helped the team the most?
I think her versatility is really what helps us. It's not just her scoring with her back to the basket. She's able to be out on the perimeter and pick and pop. As much as sometimes it drives me crazy and she turns the ball over, she is a good playmaker, and we can put the ball in her hands, and they have to respect her on the perimeter in transition. So she's done a little bit of everything, and she's shot a really great percentage from the free throw line. And so I think her confidence and her continuing to understand the type of impact she has on the team, and especially when she stayed out of foul trouble, it's a tremendous asset for our team. Pablo.
What's up? Marisa, obviously a win's a win, and everyone's happy with that. But just the way that this team did it, is this kind of, a win like that, is that kind of something that's indicative of what you hope this program can develop to be over time?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think we saw some of our younger players step up the other night. Sanaya Copeland was incredible, and even after she made a couple of tough turnovers, she came back and made some game-winning plays for us and assists, and kind of stayed in her role and understood what we needed from her, both on the offensive and defensive end. Obviously, Sarah Williams has had an incredible freshman year, and so, yeah, I think for those guys to be able to go through, and Maddie Wilkie as well made huge shots in that game, for them to be able to do that as freshmen and understand what it's like to win on the road at Minnesota when our team and this program hasn't done that since I think it was 2010. They're establishing the expectation that when we do go on the road to Big Ten opponents, and we want to protect home court, and we also want to be able to go into enemy territory as it were, and be able to come away with a victory and understand how you do it, right? And until you do that, that's when we talk about learning how to win. Until you win, you don't necessarily know how to do that, and I think that was a great lesson that we came away with.
What stood out so much in this group's response following the Michigan State game? You came in and talked about how this is not the team that I want to coach, and this is not indicative of what this program is. What stood out so much in the couple days in between that loss that just snowballed and being able to rally and pull out a season sweep over Minnesota?
Yeah, I mean, I think they understood, the message that I gave them, that, we never stop competing, we never stop fighting. That's not who we are, and I really felt like in that fourth quarter, mentally and physically, emotionally, we gave in to fatigue. We gave in to not scoring against Michigan State, and to know what we're capable of, and that we have to first and foremost respect the game, and then also respect ourselves, our coaching staff, who's putting in the time and effort to do it. And they bought into our game plan. And, we talked a lot about, okay, what are the things that you can control that you do? And what are you going to do to look in the mirror and say, I said, as coaches, I look in the mirror every single day, after every game practice, what could be better? How could I have been better to help them? But we, somewhat live in a society with these younger kids who there's not a whole lot of self-reflection all the time. There's not a whole lot of accountability, and making sure that you're taking responsibility for the things that you're doing. And I think we've created a lot of pointing fingers. And, when they say when you point one finger, four are coming back at you, that's, I think, something that we're trying to also instill in them. Like, there's not going to be a time in your life where you don't have to have accountability, and there's not going to be a time in your life that you're not going to get feedback. So get used to it. Like, I get feedback. Everybody gets feedback in their jobs. And if you can take this in the constructive way and in a way to grow, then I think we have a good chance of going and continuing to win some games. If we want to just point the finger and not take responsibility, then you're going to have a lot more tough nights.
Hey, Coach. So, soaking up the win from this weekend, but then obviously flipping the page real quick, you guys got Iowa on Wednesday. So what's going to be the message to the team this week as you guys head there?
We had practice earlier today, and part of the message already is, they're a great offensive team that you've got to make sure that you defend. We've got to make sure that there's two dynamic players that they have for sure, and Clark and Cesano, but there's a lot of other supporting cast members who on any given night can go off. You got to pick your poison a little bit with them. You're not going to keep them scoreless by any means. But at the same time, that competitive spirit, that grit, that expectation that we're going to go on the road and perform to the best of our ability, and that we expect to win. You can't go in and say, oh, it's Iowa, so let's just give it the good old college try. That's not who I am. Sure, if anyone's been coming to these conferences, now they know that. But I think it's also got to be that we've got to be able to execute and score. And it's pretty well documented. Iowa's not, terribly concerned with playing a lot of defense. They tend to look to outscore their team, the other team, a little bit more. And so, we've got to be able to get stops, and then we have to be able to convert and take care of the ball. And that's something that, the other night we took care of the ball against Minnesota, and we came out on top. In these other games when we've had quite a few turnovers, it hasn't always come out in our favor.
Brooke, follow up. Just in terms, you mentioned a lot of different strengths and talked about her versatility. Is there one area of her game that maybe you've seen some growth in particular this season compared to last year?
I would say, she's still working through this, but I think a maturity level for her on the court to understand how to pull herself out of when things are not going her way. If she's made a couple mistakes last year, sometimes that would take her out of the game mentally, and it'd be hard to get her back, or she'd just whack somebody and, pick up a foul. And I think that's something that, we've tried to reinforce this year, and I think she's starting to really understand, again, just the impact that she has and when she's on the floor. And, we don't have the deepest bench, so for her to be able to know, we need you out there, and we'll get you a breather, but then we need you to be at, top strength, top ability, a capability to perform. So I would say that mental piece of it and the maturity, I think, is something that she's really worked on. And, her strength, too, she's competing against people. She's undersized, and she still battles with them in the post. And I think that that's something that we put her in that position last year, playing the 5 for us. So I think she's continued to grow in that area as well.
You mentioned not having the deepest bench. Is there a way that trying to just kind of build upon that, expand upon just having more bodies to kind of spread around? And Sanaya played a career-high 30 against the Gophers. Ronnie got into double digits for minutes. Christine Elu had 9 minutes. Is there a way, other than just kind of evaluation and practice, that you are trying to just kind of see what you guys have bench-wise to not have such a reliance on your starters? I understand that's where your bread is buttered, but is there a way that you're trying to kind of expand that?
Yeah, I think it comes down to what you said, practice, and it's also this time of the year. Typically, people actually tighten their bench up, so I'm not sure that I could do that more than I've done. But if you got some extra bread and butter, I'm here for it, especially sourdough. But no, I think that it's it's a normal progression when you have younger players, and so to see how Sanaya's freshman year has gone in particular, I think it's textbook. And I talked to her about this the other day. I give her a ton of credit for she's gone through where she had a great summer, then she kind of dipped down, then she got a little bit more confidence, then she went back down again, and then she worked her way back into a lot of minutes playing, and obviously, like you said, career high the other night. That comes from, being resilient. That comes from continuing to show up and work hard every day in practice and prove the consistency piece of it. And, our job as coaches is to make sure that, they get a great education, they have a great experience, and that we win games. So if you can help us do that, I'm going to play you, and I see you at practice every day. I'm going to put you in the position to help us be successful. But we can't just throw you out there if you're not earning that time. I think that's a really terrible message to send to kids.
Coach, you kind of talked about getting stops against Iowa, and in the big picture of your defense, I guess I'm wondering, where do you see two-part? One, where do you see the strength of your defense right now? And two, in general, is that, as you're building a program, is that the harder piece to establish or cultivate?
I think the strength right now, we did an excellent job the other night of helping the helper. Our rotations, we had quite a few steals against Minnesota, and I think it was one of the first times that we really understood and could kind of see all the drills that we've put into play and how we can execute and apply those in real time. So I think our man defense has gotten better. I think our ball screen defense has gotten better as Sarah Williams has continued to kind of grow and Brooke and understand how to help without fouling. I think, transition defense is definitely a place we still need to improve, and it's one of the hardest things that I think that for kids to understand and pick up, because it's coming so fast, and the biggest part of it is you have to communicate, and that's something that we are constantly harping on about not only telling people what you're doing, but telling them what you need from them. As far as kind of establishing that, when you have a younger team, I think you're trying to teach a little bit of everything all the time, and, kind of jack of all trades in some ways at the beginning, just trying to figure out who really digs in, who buys into the effort and energy of defense. And so that's really it is. It's a heart thing. It's a mentality. It's there's skill that comes with it, but really it's about who wants to get down and who takes that personal if a team scores on them or if their own player scores on them. And so trying to instill that in them, how fun that can be, as well as then you go over, and the better your defense is, the more possessions you get on offense, the more fun you can have on offense too.
Marisa, kind of going off of that, buying in and everything, I know still healthy part of the latter part of the season, but just kind of where you're at from an evaluation side, second season, and as this program, again, continues to grow, where do you think you're at? Where do you think this program's at?
Yeah, I think I've been told by a lot of people, not to measure it by the wins and losses. As a human being, I think sometimes that's easier said than done. But if I look at our team and the program from year one to year two, we're markedly better than we were year one. I think we trended, towards the end of last season and finished off really strong. I think I came in with really high expectations, and we had a lot of young players and some injuries and some things that we had to overcome. But as I look at kind of the total picture of it and the journey that we're on with this, I think we're somewhat where we need to be. And at the same time, I'm, greedy. I want more, not only for myself, but for our team and for the program. And when I say for myself, I want to be able to help them be in the best position to experience the things that I have experienced. I think there's nothing better than playing in the postseason. There's nothing better than competing for championships. And I know that's where this program's headed. We have a fantastic group of young women coming in as freshmen, and we're just going to continue to keep growing. But one thing I know for sure is the teams that I coach here are going to give 110% effort. They're going to play with passion. They're going to compete. And I think we've shown that in a lot of our games this year. with, competing with Maryland, competing with Ohio State, being in these games, winning at Michigan State. Like, to me, with playing with top teams in the country for, 3 quarters, almost beating Florida State, who's ranked right now, like, we're definitely headed in the right direction, and we just got to get over that hump. And obviously some of that comes with effort and execution, and some of that comes with talent. A lot of it comes with talent. I could be the best coach in the world. If I don't have the players to do it, then it doesn't really matter what my X's and O's are.